Good afternoon and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing some accessories that you might find helpful for your adventures in freeze-drying foods at home. I have the large Harvest Right home freeze dryer, and these are the standard trays that come with it. They are 9 inches wide by 20 inches long, and I have found that these tray stackers work very well. You can find them from dealers on Etsy. Some of them are molded, some of them are 3D printed, but essentially it is just a little plastic edge piece that has a lip on it on the bottom and a set of standoffs for the inside and outside, and they simply sit on the corner, and the next tray on top sits there, and it gives you a space in between for your food to sit. So those have come in very handy for me. Other things that have certainly come in handy are parchment paper for the trays to keep food from sticking. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. I bought a large package of these and then I cut them down myself. So out of one sheet I get 2 pieces that will fit inside the 9 by 20 trays, and then I have some smaller trays that the remaining pieces actually fit perfectly inside those as well. These are probably my favorite accessory that I have found so far. These additional trays can be found on Amazon. They are 7 inches by 9 inches, and they're a little bit deeper than the original factory trays. I found these for $20 for 4 of them, give or take a little bit. Sometimes those are out and you can only find them in a 3-pack. I did see a vendor the other day that was selling a 5-pack, but they are stainless steel, a little bit thinner gauge I think than the original factory ones, but they seem to be working perfectly fine. Those have come in very handy, and the most important thing I find about this is that a 2-cup portion for hiking or backpacking type foods, which is basically the way that I package stuff up, fits perfectly in here without being too thick, and so they tend to dry very, very well in the machine. So that is probably my favorite accessory so far, outside of the parchment paper itself. Next up, you will pretty much most definitely need a food scale. This one is brand new for me. I bought it at Walmart. It was a little bit larger, and so it allows you to set the trays on and still see the display screen. My other one was a little bit smaller and was just a little bit more cumbersome, so I upgraded to that. Some other accessories, I picked up these cheesy little banana slicers, and basically it just makes slicing bananas a whole lot easier, a little bit safer, and a whole lot faster. It also makes sure that for the most part all the bananas are evenly sliced, which also helps out in dry time. Not necessarily making it more efficient. The thinner you cut them, the faster they're going to dry, but the more consistent the spaces are, the more consistent your dry times are going to be for that particular type food. So if you keep replicating everything over and over again, you can get a little bit better understanding and be able to expect how it's going to perform in the freeze dryer itself. Next is a small cookie dough scooper. I use these for making ice cream balls in a uniform size that comes out working pretty well. I've got a 16 slice apple slicer and corer that I also picked up off of Amazon. These little gizmos I'm not 100% on yet. They do work. They are bag spreaders. So basically you would take a Mylar bag and it would go in here, and these little things go down into the edge of the bag and clip on the sides and spread the bag open and keep it standing up while you fill it. They do work. They are a little cumbersome, but if you've got something that is a little harder to bag up, these do work, and I think they were like $12 for a pack of 4. The next accessories that I have are silicone molds. You can get these at some cooking stores. You can get ones that are about half of this, I think a 2" by 2" cube for ices. You can actually find those at some of the Walmarts. These are divided into 1 cup servings, but the 1 cup actually is almost all the way up to the top of this, and so that actually does not work in a freeze dryer. It's just too thick, but you could use this to freeze some items and then slice them if you wanted a particular shape or thickness or something like that. But there are graduation lines inside at a 1/2 cup, and so basically on this particular model I fill them up to the 1/2 cup each one, and that gives me 2 cup servings out of each container. And these typically come in 2 packs. So I've got 2 of the orange ones and then 2 of these green ones. The green ones are just 2 separate sections, and again each one is 2 cups, but that is almost all the way to the top, so I only fill them halfway up, so I get 1 cup in this side, 1 cup in this side, and I know that when I freeze dry those cubes, 2 of those makes my 2 cup serving to go into one of my Mylar bags. And so that comes out very helpful for me. These are quite expensive though for what they are. The larger 1 cup or 2 cup ones on the bottom, I think they were around $36 for a 2-pack when you can find them in stock on Amazon. These you can find from a few more different vendors and different names on them, and I think these were $24 for a 2-pack. Next up was a scooper. I couldn't find what I wanted, so what I wound up doing is getting some of the very thin, kind of disposable, reusable, but eventually you throw them away, little cutting sheets. And I cut one in half, and one of those sheets, and I think it's about $4 or $5 for a 3-pack, but one of those sheets made 2 of these. And so basically I cut it in half and measured everything out and just made it even, and you fold them over and crease them sharply a couple of times, and it makes a nice edge to it. Rounded the edge over here, and I simply folded in kind of origami style on the back, and then used some tape, just a shipping packing tape on the outside to tape over the corners so it doesn't come undone. But you can easily, you know, cut the tape if you get some nasty food or something in there that you've got to scrub out and keep everything super clean. Pretty easy to take it apart, clean it, and then fold it back and tape it back up. But everything that I use this for is already dried, so basically it's just dust. I can wipe most everything out and then just rinse it and wash it easily, no big deal. But this works really well because they are flexible. I can scoop the food towards the end, scoop it up, curl the front, stick it in the bag, and basically it kind of acts like a funnel too for some stuff. So those have definitely come in very handy for me. I started off using some of the disposable aluminum trays, like a loaf pan that I would, you know, cut the ends off and kind of use that, and then I found this material, and that has worked very, very well. And let's see, other accessories that I have found. We've got some regular bread loaf pans back there, and I believe 9x9 cake pans. Those have come in handy in forming some larger packaging type foods. These I found the other day at Walmart, and I have used these on 3 different loads now, and I truly do like them. These are semi-disposable or absolutely disposable, whatever. I wash them and reuse them. They're pretty heavy-duty plastic. They are microwave safe, freezer safe. They come with a lid that actually snaps on very well, and then the lid has a ring in it in the top, and the bottoms of them have a ridge as well that fits into that ring, so they stack very well. And the only issue that I've found with these is that they're not super efficient on the space. So if you're trying to maximize every square inch of your freeze dryer, these are probably not going to be the best way to do it, because as you see, if that's pushed all the way up against the side, there's about 1.25 inches of space left. However, I can make up to 2-cup meals and put in this package, freeze it in that, and then you flip them over, pop them out, and then they just sit in here nicely. So yes, there is some extra space, but typically I can get 3 of those across, and possibly even 4 if they're actually touching just the food blocks themselves. But these little trays are super cheap. They run, I think, about $10 or $12 for a package of 30. I think these were like $6 for a package of 15, and essentially I've only used about half of these, and then just I get stuff frozen, and then I pop it out, put it on the trays, and have the trays in my freezer that I stack up. And so basically I just wash them and reuse them and freeze the next batch, and then when I get a whole set of trays frozen, I throw it all in the freeze dryer and get it going. My freezer itself is not the best setup. It does work. It is a 7 cubic foot chest freezer that I bought at Sam's Club when they had it on sale. It does work great. It does get down to minus 13 degrees. And what I wound up doing was, get this tray out of here, I bought some aluminum angle iron, or angle aluminum, and I drilled some holes, and I found this wire rack shelving for in a closet at Lowe's, I believe, and it came with these standoffs that hang from the next shelf up. And so I didn't adjust or change any of the heights on it. I simply drilled holes in the aluminum, and then I notched the ends of the aluminum out. I ran a little Gorilla Tape over it just to keep it nice and sliding and not scratching up the plastic. And then down here, the way that the shelves hook in, I wrap some Gorilla Tape around that to keep it rigidly together. But that allows me access to still store plenty of stuff in the bottom of the freezer, and then it fits the trays perfectly fine, and I have plenty of room where I reach down on the sides and I can stack my trays up and have a whole stack. And in this configuration, I think it'll hold about 8, maybe 9 trays stacked full of food. I don't think I can get the full 10th one in there without touching the roof of the freezer. But that is my setup for my freezer right now. I do actually have a much larger vertical freezer on order. It won't be here till next month. So the next accessories that I highly recommend for any freeze dryer, regardless of the size, are going to be cooling fans. I already had this larger one in the back. This is like a $35 fan. It is very powerful. Like, it basically has more airflow than a 20-inch box fan. So it's kind of overkill for this purpose. I keep it on low when the pump is running, and I just had it. What I recommend are these. I think this is an 8-inch fan. I found it at Walmart. It was like $14. It's 3-speed. I keep it on low, and inside the unit itself there is a fan and a radiator on the other side that helps to cool the compressor and all that's in there. And on my unit, it blows from the left to the right, and so I have this fan sitting here that gets pushed very close up to it, not quite touching, and so there's no rattling or anything. I keep it on low throughout the entire process when it's running, and that sucks the warm air out of the machine, and it does blow it towards the pump, but that is not a problem. I then have another fan at the back that is blowing cool air on the fan or on the pump, and the pump has the little cooling fins on here on the heat sink side to help cool everything down. It's warm to the touch when it runs, but it has never gotten hot, and I've ran 50-hour loads in this thing, and so the fans help tremendously. And when you're running your freeze dryer, if your temperature of the air that is moving through through the unit itself gets to be too high, this screen will come up with a warning that says high temperatures may increase your drying time or cycle times or whatever. I've gotten that once, and that was only when I forgot to turn on my fans. In my room, I do have a window air conditioner back there. I keep, this is a 12 by 20 building, outbuilding. It is insulated and most of it is paneled in. I've got the air conditioner, and then I set a box fan right there in front of it just to blow that air out towards the front much quicker. I keep this room at about 73, 74 degrees, and with those fans I do not have a problem, as long as I remember to turn those fans on. The other thing that I have not got perfectly worked out yet, as far as accessories go, is Workspace. I do have this little lifetime folding table that works pretty well. Usually I don't have all this stuff on it, but that gives me room to write out my labels and to get my O2 absorbers and bags and all laid out for packaging. And usually I would get everything set up there. Once the food is bagged up, I set them typically on top of the freezer, and then I will come by when I am ready to do the packaging. I will open up my O2 absorbers, drop one in each bag. I will immediately seal up any remaining O2 absorbers in their bags so they don't go bad, and then I will immediately start grabbing those bags, pushing as much air out of it as possible, and then sealing them up and setting them back on the freezer in that order until I'm completely done, in which case then I go and start storing them in my containers for storage. I do have at my disposal in here a rolling tool cart that also provides extra space as well. I've got a flip up shelf on it here. That helps. And then I also have this here. This is a folding workbench, or collapsing. It really doesn't fold, but it's about 20 inches by about 36 inches, and it's about the same height as the freezer itself, and so that I use all the time. Usually it stays set up, and I just kind of move it around, but I use that for when I pull my first tray or two out and I check my food and I know that my food is done, then I'll go ahead and pull all of those trays out, have them sitting on that table somewhere right in here, as I can just turn back and forth and start getting the food bagged up, and then set aside ready to do the oxygen absorbers and the sealing process. So that's my space. That's the best way that I've come up to use it. On my movable rack here, this I can move out of the way if I need to, but I store all my trays and my pans, some food labels if I'm gonna to be recording more detailed stuff and just don't want to take the time to do it up front. I pull the labels off and leave them sitting there. I've got my extra oil down there. I've got some extra food. There's a big can of peaches that I'm going to be doing in the future. If I need to cook anything out here to pop straight in, then I can use my little toaster oven here. Got some mason jars up top and some instant potato stuff and beans that is going to get freeze dried, so kind of a catch-all type deal. I leave my impulse sealer on this shelf though, and use it right where it's at. I mean they weigh 7-8 pounds. I don't have a need really to pull it out and move it any other place. It works just fine where it's at there. On the end of that rack, I have mounted a sheet of plywood and basically just taped up here. I have got my box of full-size sheets of my parchment paper. This was a box of 200 pieces that actually they get cut down the middle and then across the end to the right length and width, and that gives me up to 400 pieces for tray liners out of that one package that I think was $20 to $24 on Amazon. Further down that side, I have got these file hanging type deals from the office section at Walmart. These particular ones are made out of metal mesh, and they're just screwed to the back panel. This one holds a little bit of all sorts of stuff. The others here, I've actually got tags in each one that identifies the size of the bag, the manufacturer, and what O2 absorber goes with it, and then I have those O2 absorbers in there with them. And so that one's down there. These are two different sizes. That's a single meal pouch, that's a double meal pouch. Those are probably my two favorite bags that I use. Those are both from Pleasant Grove or Top Mylar, same company. But you can find those. You can find them on Amazon, but it's cheaper to order directly from the site. But those are definitely my favorite two. Over here I've got two more, and these are just these are from Pack Fresh USA, which is the other manufacturer that I really like. They have great products. This is a 1-quart bag and a 2-quart bag, and for my bigger bulk stuff that's going to be a meal for both me and my wife, typically goes in the 2-quart. I use the 1-quarts for snack type stuff or accessories. But again, just in case you forget while you're doing things, I've got the O2 absorber. I've also listed the cost that I pay for the bags and the O2 absorbers that are in there. They come, well, I order them prepackaged in 10 per bag, so they're easy to grab and easy to use. On my wall, basically I just have got a chart there that shows from Pack Fresh USA the recommended O2 absorber for the correct size bag. I've also got that written out up there for the ones that I actually have and use the 1-quart, 2-quart, single meal, double meal, and the appropriate bags that they use. I also have weighed out the weight of those bags, which comes into play when you're actually packaging foods that you're going to rehydrate and not just a snack that you're going to eat. Over here I've got my trays and the empty weight, both in grams and pounds, and typically I use grams. Different pans that I use, the baking pan and the loaf pan, same way. Empty weights, grams and ounces, and then these are the standard ones that I use more frequently than anything else, and that is the 7x9 stainless trays and the weights themselves. And then those Walmart brand mainstays, black plastic containers and their weight. So and then this one here is for some of the disposable aluminum containers. So I've got some cups that I just screwed and mounted to the wall for holding pins and scissors, because I do a lot of cutting. A little container for index cards that I cut up into fourths, and when I'm freeze drying foods, I will write what the food is and the weights pre-dried and then dried when it comes out, and this actually stays with the chunk of food. If I'm pre-measuring the foods out for specific portions, I would write that information down. The food would be in here, and I would stick this down in the edge or just lay it on top of it and throw it in the freeze dryer, and then it stays with it, so I know when I measure that and weigh it again that that is the actual ticket that went with the food, so no confusion there. And then my preferred storage are these yellow and black containers. There's several different brands out there. Some of these came from Home Depot, some of them came from Sam's, some of them came from Costco. The ones that are in this rack here are 17-gallon. I think that is a 10-gallon or 11-gallon, a little smaller one there. That's another 17. And then the ones that I use back here for my more long-term storage, those are larger and are 27 gallons each. And I made my own labels for everything that you see in there. I went to Avery's website. They're the company that manufactures most all the shipping labels and stuff like that, and they've got their own designer online that you can use for free, and you can save everything. So I've got all my containers numbered, And then these here are where, when I'm packaging foods, just to get them together, I will put them in their correct categories here. And then basically once one of these containers gets full, then I will move those back and put them away in their containers back here. And as an example, this one I just packaged up some stuff and put in here, and you can see my other labels. And so that is a 2" by 4" label, and this one was taco soup. It was a 2-cup serving. The date that it was packaged, the pre-dried weight and the dried weight, and then the grams of water that you add back to it. And I have not done a conversion chart yet on that. You generally will find that people will measure water out in a fluid ounces. I measure it in grams just because every time that I'm dealing with my frozen foods, everything is about weight, not volume. So I just have not done the conversion yet to convert the grams over to a volume measurement for that. But as a basic introduction to accessories, those are the accessories that I have, and the ones that I use so far, and how I do my packaging and storage of foods. Thanks for watching.